Good morning, everyone. 1 week after Florence made landfall, North Carolina continues to feel the effects of the storm. Flooding continues in parts of our state, and 12 of our river gauges are measuring at major flood stage. Some locations won't see rivers crest until late in the weekend, and flooding will continue well into next week. This means that lives are still at risk, and people need to stay alert for local evacuation orders. Last night there was a significant rescue operation in Bladen County, in the town of Kelly. About 100 people had to be evacuated by boat and air after the town flooded when the Cape Fear River breached the levee there. The North Carolina National Guard and the U.S. Coast Guard, flying with night vision goggles, heroically saved lives. We are eternally grateful to our first responders who continue to show unflinching courage in the face of danger. They've executed about 5,000 rescues that we know of, more than twice the number that occurred in Hurricane Matthew. Parts of I-95 and I-40 remain submerged and unsafe. And as of this morning, there are more than 600 road closures throughout our state. The opening and closings of roads are changing as the flooding continues. I can't stress enough, don't drive around barricades. Your car is not enough to protect you from dangerous flood waters, even if it only seems like a few inches. The storm has taken 31 lives in North Carolina so far, many of them due to inland flooding. After several days of a storm like this, it's important to remember that that's more than just a number. We join the victims' families and friends and entire communities that are grieving about this. Right now, we have about 56,000 people that are without power, and I know the utilities are working as fast as they can, where it's safe, to restore power. I'm also glad to report that all of our 911 centers are operational. The number of non-functioning cell phone towers is down now into the single digits, and we thank the telecom workers who've worked hard to bring back cell phone service to many areas. We have about 3,700 people who are still in our shelters. I had a chance to visit with some of those people yesterday and the day before. Many of them are tired and worried about their homes and their families. But I've also heard from a number of people who told me that they know that it is not safe for them to go back home yet. Please follow their examples and don't try to return home now in many parts of our state. I know that's a big request for people wondering what's left of their homes, but with power still out in many places and new roads flooding every hour, we need to keep the few routes we have clear for emergency vehicles and supplies and Department of Transportation workers and utility workers. You'll hear from the Secretary of Transportation recommending that people not drive south of Highway 70 and east of US 1. Today, we are requesting that the federal government cover 100% of our disaster response costs for the first 30 days of this effort instead of the usual 75%. And I'm also pleased to say that people know about FEMA recovery. 61 survivors have registered for FEMA assistance thus far, and many are already receiving some. You can log on to disasterassistance.gov or also call 1-800-621-FEMA to register. Later today, in addition to visiting with survivors of the storm, as I have over the last few days, I'll be visiting some farms to see firsthand the damage the storm has brought to their crops and their livestock. Agriculture is a major driver in North Carolina's economy, and I know that these hard-working farmers deserve our support. The damage to our state is devastating, and it's still occurring as we speak. We don't yet know the full extent of the damage, and we won't know until the waters recede. But I continue to see signs of hope and resilience in every community that I visit. It's this spirit that will get us through this. It's our toughness that will ensure we do more than just build back. We're going to build back stronger than ever. We have our team up here, at least part of our team, that's working so hard on disaster response. And I'll first recognize Mike Sprayberry.
Thank you, Governor. My name is Mike Sprayberry. I'm the Director of North Carolina Emergency Management. Good afternoon, everyone. The State Emergency Operations Center remains activated at level 1 with all of our federal, state, private sector, and volunteer partners. This is day 12 of the Hurricane Florence operation. As expected, major flooding in eastern North Carolina continues. We're currently experiencing major flooding in the Neuse River Basin, Lenoir County at Kinston and Barnwell. Kinston is still rising. Kinston is expected to have flooding peak tomorrow, September 22nd. Greene County at Hookerton is reporting major flood stage. Flooding is expected through September 28th. In Jones County, both Trenton and Pollocksville are reporting moderate flooding that is expected to last through Thursday, September 27th. In the Cape Fear River Basin, Pender County at Burgaw and Black River at North Carolina 210 are both reporting major flood status. Duplin County at Chinkapin is also reporting major flood status. Flooding will remain in Burgaw and Black River at North Carolina 210 through September 28th. Flooding will remain in Chinkapin through September 23rd. In Bladen County, major flooding is present at locks near Tar Heel and Kelly. Both of these sites will experience flooding through September 28th. In the Lumber River Basin, Robeson County at Lumberton is reporting major flood status. While the water has receded slightly, it is forecasted that a second peak of flooding will occur in Lumberton on September 23rd, approximately 1/2 foot lower than the initial peak. Lumberton will decline slowly following the peak on the 23rd, with flooding to last through October 5th. Columbus County at Fairbluff is reporting major flood status with waters slightly declining. With the water starting to decline there, Fairbluff will experience the same second peak in water elevation as experienced in Lumberton. We urge everyone to use the North Carolina Emergency Management Flood Inundation Mapping and Alert Network, known as FIMAN, to ensure you are aware of potential flooding in your area by logging into fiman.nc.gov. That's fiman.nc.gov. You can also sign up to be alerted by text messages and emails as rivers or streams rise in your location. The State Emergency Response Team continues to be engaged in wide area search and rescue, and we continue to push aggressively commodities such as pumps, food, water, and other items. Sheltering also continues to be a top priority for our displaced citizens, and we are still operating our 8 mass feeding kitchens in Wilmington, Jacksonville, Hope Mills, Kinston, Lumberton, New Bern, Washington, and Wallace to provide hot meals. We thank our Red Cross, Salvation Army, and Baptist Men partners so much for their help there. We're also engaged in detailed planning for the activation of temporary shelter assistance program, and we anticipate establishing disaster recovery centers in the coming days. As always, follow the instructions of your local officials and stay tuned to your local media to ensure situational awareness. Finally, again, a special thanks to all of our volunteers who make response and recovery possible. And thank you for your support of the North Carolina State Emergency Response Team. Thank you, Governor.
Secretary Jim Trogdon.
Thank you, Governor. Jim Trogdon, Department of Transportation. As of today, we're still sustaining interstates with 12 locations that are seeing high water and flooding. That's primarily on two interstates, I-40 and I-95. As you know, none of that has changed. We did slightly increase to 40 our number of U.S. routes that are seeing high water, and then 89 North Carolina primary roads for a total of 141. So just slightly up from yesterday. That is what's happening with the cresting of our rivers, primarily at the Neuse and Kinston. We had great feedback yesterday from the folks in Robeson County and emergency managers there who said the early diversion of the I-95 traffic around our state really helped them in their response. As compared to Matthew, they had thousands of people they had to rescue from the interstate. This time there was hardly any. So that was good feedback. We are still focused today on continuing to maintain and sustain mobility into our coastal counties, all of them, and we're successful in doing that. Even though we're seeing some additional closures, we still have good routes to support first responders, emergency management, and our logistics packages going down there. Based on our observations yesterday, we're working to push some traffic signals, both temporary traffic signals and permanent traffic signals in places. As you can imagine, with the closure of so many roads, more traffic is focused on the ones that are open. Those that are open may not be designed for those volumes and may have a lot of stop conditions with stop signs, and we're seeing traffic inundate those roads, requiring extensive amount of law enforcement to direct traffic all day. So we're pushing and starting our first traffic signal installation in Robeson County today. We're at 95% of our routes where we've cut the debris out of the road to make sure the roads are open. We have estimated right now 300 sites that will need longer term or more permanent repairs, not just a hasty repair or opening, and I anticipate that number will continue to grow. This weekend, as the governor alluded to, I'm recommending that people restrict traffic east of US 1 and south of US 70 into those areas. We understand there are places that are open and businesses that are going on. We understand that. It's the travelers wanting to return. Those are going to create the challenge. So the guidelines I would suggest is if there's no power in the area where your destination is and the roads have limited amount of serviceability in getting to that area, then there's no water and sewer and there's no ability to get fuel once you get there, it's not a good weekend to travel to those locations. So as an alternative, there's plenty of locations west and north of those that are open for business, and certainly it's a great weekend to visit the NC Zoo. Thank you.
Commander McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Glenn McNeil, North Carolina State Highway Patrol. As roadway conditions continue to improve in certain areas affected by Hurricane Florence, several remain impassable. Troopers have worked throughout the night with our excellent DOT partners and first responders to render aid wherever needed. Please heed the safety messages that are being given. Our message as an organization remains the same. Please avoid traveling through the affected areas until DOT has had the opportunity to ensure that these roads are clear and safe for travel. I also continue to stress the importance of not driving around barricades. As we do assessments, we continue to see people placing themselves in harm's way by driving around these barricades. Whether there is water present or not, these locations remain unsafe until DOT has had the opportunity to conduct proper inspections. We're still stressing this message to all. Please don't drive through rushing water, standing water under any circumstances. This safety message is our highest priority because you're placing yourselves in harm's way and also the first responders who are responsible for coming to you to render aid and to save you. Please heed all the safety warnings that are being presented to you today. Thank you.
Brigadier General Hunt.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to give a brief synopsis of the rescue last night, but before I go on, I'd like to publicly thank the crews that provided the rescue for 100 people and 33 animals last night in the vicinity of Kelly, North Carolina, and specifically at Centenary Church. So approximately at 8 p.m. last night, we received a call from emergency management of over 100 people that were stranded in the locations I just mentioned. We dispatched a total of 8 aircraft to include U.S. Coast Guard and National Guard aircraft working in unison to respond to that area. These aircraft were UH-60s and CH-47 aircraft. You have to remember this was at night. They flew under night vision goggles. Some of the crews came from Minnesota and Maryland who were not specifically familiar with the areas at all. The rescues were done as hoist and also landing and evacuating people onto the aircraft in this vicinity. I can't say enough about how the coordination and excellent determination from the crews. This was a coordinated event with several different agencies and states to rescue these 100 people and 33 animals and get them to shelter. The mission ended at approximately 2 o'clock this morning, and the crews are resetting for another mission tonight if possible. But again, thank you, Governor, and thank you for the emergency management staff and our partnership with the U.S. Coast Guard in making this effort very, very key to the survival and safety of those citizen soldiers and citizens of North Carolina. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, General. Our first responders are our heroes. Now, Albie Lewis.
Thank you, Governor. Albie Lewis, the Federal Coordinating Officer for FEMA. So you know that we have over 1,000 folks here working directly with the state of North Carolina and many more out in the field. Today we have 275 disaster survivor assistance teams that are out there helping to register folks. We have nearly 63,000 folks registered for assistance with over $8.3 million approved. We have DRC locations, as Director Sprayberry said, are standing up, and we're looking for other locations in the coming days. I have messages for the survivors. Do not wait to start your cleanup and your repairs. You should document your damage by taking photos and save all your receipts for cleanup and repairs. Remember that FEMA is just one part of the team here, and we help you on your recovery. We work with the local, state, federal, as well as the voluntary agencies in the whole community approach. And although FEMA cannot make you whole again, it will help you recover and move forward by providing grants for basic repairs to make your home safe, sanitary, and secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Albie. We continue to appreciate our FEMA partnership. Questions for any of the team or for me?
Maybe the general can answer. Do you know what shelter the folks from Kelly were taken to, where they are now?
Yes, sir. We took them to Kinston Airport, and they were in a shelter in Kinston vicinity.
Could you identify yourself, your name totally? And
Yes, Brigadier General Todd Hunt. I'm the Director of the Joint Staff for the North Carolina National Guard.
Thank you.
And then if I could shift gears, we're hearing now that the Cape Fear River may have coal ash in it because of a breach near there. Maybe Secretary Reagan, you can speak to that. I mean, this has come out in the last half hour, I believe.
Michael Regan, Secretary for the Department of Environmental Quality. What we know is the Cape Fear River has spilled into the Sutton Lake. Sutton Lake has spilled over into Duke's transmission yard, so they have evacuated their employees. What we don't know at this point is if any coal ash has filtered into the Cape Fear River. We plan to conduct flyovers and/or partner with the Department of Transportation to look at drone capabilities to see if we can ascertain that.
And if I could just follow up, it seems like the information that we're getting on environmental issues are coming from activists who are in boats, taking video of places like this, or from farmers or from Duke Energy. We're not really hearing much from DEQ. Why is that we're able to hear from some of these other entities but not from the state?
What we've done is, in many of these cases, we have utilized flyovers, and we have been on site where we believe it is safe. Our goal is to not put any of our state employees in harm's way and or inhibit any of the operations that our sister agencies are conducting. So we are governing ourselves very carefully, but where we can access, we have. In many instances with flyovers, we're able to ascertain certain information. What we have not been able to do is get our feet on the ground to get some of the sampling, the water quality sampling. And so I would say that we are knowledgeable about what we can see. What we want to get more information on are the exact implications of that coal ash on water quality.
This is for Secretary Trogdon, I believe, about Wilmington, and now that US 421 is flooded again. I mean, is it accurate to say again that there's really no way to get into Wilmington right now as a civilian? I mean, I assume, are the supply lines still open to get the needed things, the basic necessities to Wilmington?
So we have redundant access for things like we can get in with our high water vehicles, we can get logistics in, we can get law enforcement. There's very, very limited access that would be safe for civilian traffic. There's locals that know lots of ways around, so we see them traveling. That's not really putting a strain. It's really the ones that's going to come interregionally, wanting to visit, maybe go to the beach this weekend. This probably isn't a good time to plan for that event, but I'm sure by next weekend the things will look quite a bit better.
So people should still go to the zoo? Is that
I think anything west of 1 and north of 70 is really a perfect place to travel and visit, and there's plenty of opportunities across our state.
Okay, we'll let you know when the next briefing will be held. Thank you.